Hey, Lauren, you're not going to believe the shit I found.
What did you find, Dee?
Well, I've been on TikTok and Reddit, and there's stuff
Yeah.
about Sean all over it.
Sean from Polyfamily?
Yeah.
What tea do you have, Dee?
Well, they were saying things like he's got 5 kids with his
Oh,
ex-wife, that he's not been paying any child support.
what?
Here, let me send you the Reddit post. Hold on a
Okay.
second.
All right.
Yeah, here it
Okay.
is.
Oh,
I just sent it.
what- the one you just sent.
Yeah.
That was written by Cox Suxley.
Yeah.
Remote reality, yeah, that's the key. Unlocking stories wild and free. With the host, side by side. Channel surfers, let's ride.
Welcome to Remote Reality. This is Lauren. All right, channel surfers. I guess this isn't really breaking news at this point, but social media is going crazy about Sean from Polyfamily. So, as an attorney, I always ask, where is this information coming from? Is it relevant? Is it something truthful? For me, I'm looking to see if I can have it admitted into a court of law. If you're looking at news articles, journalists, they're looking to see if it goes with their code of ethics, of ethical journalism. They want to make sure things are true. They want to corroborate what they're being told. They want to look at the source. What's that source's motive? Do they have firsthand knowledge of it? And those are similar questions that I ask when I'm reading posts on Reddit and TikTok, because you don't know who's behind that keyboard. For example, on Reddit, there was a guy named Cox Suckery who said something. I'm not sure what it was because it was removed by the time I got there. But when you go to the comment section, someone says the quad is looking at suing for defamation. And Cox Suckery says, go ahead and subpoena Cox Suckery. I dare you. So that says it all. It's going to be hard to even find me. I'm saying this behind a keyboard. I'm anonymous. I can say whatever I want. And one of the reasons I'm careful about this is because Liz, she went through similar things. Her boyfriend's ex accused her of drugging his children, but she was giving them kids melatonin. It might not be for everybody, but when you're spinning it as you're drugging them, that doesn't tell the whole story. Another thing, people were saying your pit bull shouldn't be around children. And sadly, she just had to put her dog down when all of this was happening on social media. Pitbull and Parolees, one of the people from that show actually came in and had her back on it. And she had a very sweet dog. But people were just criticizing her and judging her. And they didn't know the whole story. And they didn't know that she just had to say goodbye. So not only as an attorney, but also as a friend of somebody who has been in the spotlight and been hurt by it, I definitely question what I read when I'm looking at social media about people on reality TV. I also watch that edit. I'm looking to see where they might have done Franken clips, where they have spliced sentences together to make a whole new sentence. I'm looking at the scenes. Is the person's hair magically growing like it was on Polyfamily last week for Tyler? How are they splicing this story together to make it good for the audience? Today, we're going to look at some of these allegations. We're going to see if we can corroborate it. We're going to see if any of these sources are credible. So what are the allegations? Well, it seems to be the same thing going around. Same generic stuff. There are videos on TikTok. There are posts on Reddit that are saying Sean met Taya when he was still married to his last wife and that he was dating a lot of people. And he had 5 kids and he's abandoned them and he's not paying child support for them. And he doesn't have a job so that he doesn't have to pay the child support, and that his ex-wife is coming forward with allegations of abuse. There's things like Sean liked having threesomes, that he was fired as a teacher due to an investigation of him talking to a 13-year-old girl online, that Sean and Taya are moochers and they don't have jobs. They don't work. So how are people learning this? Well, it seems very vague. And that's why I did pull up background reports on the 4 adults to see if we could corroborate any of it. But let's just kind of look at the sources here. So people saying that Sean dated Taya while he was married to his ex-wife and he left his wife for Taya. One person is saying that they know this because Sean dated their friend, but that doesn't really seem like information that your friend would know, that Sean left his last wife for Taya. What did he go up to your friend and say? Oh yeah, I'm dating you and Taya and I'm leaving my wife, but it's not for you. It's not for you. It's for Taya. Or did they go up to you and he personally told you that? Yeah, so I'm leaving my wife, but it's not for your friend. It's for this hot chick, Taya. It just doesn't seem like firsthand knowledge. It looks like the same generic things. The person's not coming forward and saying, Sean told me this at a barbecue. It's just, I've met him once before and I'm going to repeat everything I saw online. Another person claims to be a student that has information about how he ended up hooking up with another student and that he was let go from his job. Was this while you were in school? Were you even his student? There's not a lot of specificity here. So what kind of things could back this up? So with ethical journalism, maybe we can find a news article because news articles are going to check their sources. They're going to have some ethics. No news articles about Sean being fired from a school, not in Oregon, not in Washington. Again, I pulled a background report, so I got to see the different places that he's lived. Well, what about the background report? What about his criminal record? If he got fired for being inappropriate with a student, if he was being investigated for being inappropriate with a 13-year-old, somebody was investigating him, well, we would probably see some charges. And if the investigation didn't go well, those would be dismissed. And I would still see that on a background report, on a record. There's only one charge. When he was 20 years old, 9 months away from being 21, he got busted with some booze and pled guilty and had a $75 fine for minor in possession. He was the minor in possession and he was trying to buy alcohol. That's the only thing. No traffic tickets, no other crimes. That's it. Now, people saying that Sean is past due on child support and that he doesn't have a job so he can avoid paying child support. Well, as an attorney, that already doesn't make sense to me. Not having a job doesn't get you out of the obligation. Child support is one of those creditors that can throw you in jail for civil contempt for not paying it, and you hold the key to that jail cell. You get current and they let you out. So it didn't make sense to me that just not having a job would get you out of it. What that would get you is locked up. And I know because as a bankruptcy attorney, that's things I have to deal with. People that are past due on child support. I've gone to the jail and had somebody file bankruptcy so I could get them out of jail and put them in a plan where they get caught up on their past due child support. It's something that we see often. So I know the consequences for that. Just not having a job doesn't fix the problem. But also not having a job. Last week, I think we met one of his coworkers, Hannah. So what is she a coworker at if he doesn't have a job? Again, I'm not finding anything to corroborate this. Another allegation, the allegations of abuse from Sean's ex-wife. Well, people on Reddit are so excited to tell us about this, but nobody says where they heard it. Presumably, she's coming forward with it on social media, but nobody's posting screenshots. Nobody's linking it to a Reddit thread. They're just saying that she's coming forward with it. They're saying what they heard. So I did do a background check on Sean's ex-wife, and I'm not going to give her name, but what I can tell you is no social media profiles even came up for her. I found social media profiles for Tyler. I found a MySpace that Tyler had. I found a Pinterest that Sean had. It had a picture of one tattoo. There were social media profiles left and right, but nothing for her. And nobody's giving us any proof that it's coming from her. No screenshots, no links. You've got to question, where are you getting this information? And why wouldn't you tell me if it was credible? They're probably just repeating things they've already seen. In fact, on one of the TikToks, the person is talking about the wife's allegations of abuse and then immediately says, but I don't want to talk about that because there's not proof of that. As far as sources that say how they know Sean, they're still not telling us, did Sean tell you that information directly, like at a barbecue? They're not telling us how they found out. There's not detail. It's just the same vague allegations. One person says that they were a student when Sean was a teacher. They don't say Sean was their teacher. They don't say that Sean was telling his class things about his marriage. They don't say he got fired while I was in school for hooking up with a student. They just say that he was married, he had 2 kids, and he got fired for having an inappropriate relationship with a student. But it's not like, oh yeah, when I was in school and I knew that person and I saw it happen. It just seemed to be, oh yeah, he was a teacher when I was at school. So now it sounds like I'm credible. And now I can repeat everything I said online. No specifics. Not I was friends with the kids and that would still be hearsay, but they told me everything that was happening. And I hope not. I hope his kids, if something like that happened, I would hope that they didn't know all the ins and outs of their parents' personal life. And I would hope that the students wouldn't know that either. So as far as the student, what could be that person's motivation? In the comment section, they say it's too much to type out on TikTok. So they link to their TikTok account for you to come watch videos on it, and they start tagging other students. They're looking for views. Well, what about Kelsey? What about Tyler's sister? She knows Tyler. That's his sister. She's met the family. She's probably been over to their house for holidays. I don't know. That is just an assumption. I do not have anything to back that up because she does tell us that they don't have a relationship anymore. And she says it's because her and her brother are very different. She doesn't go into that. We know that she's not polyamorous. She said that she wasn't supportive of it at first because she was worried about her niece and nephew. They don't say why they're different. Are they having political differences? We don't know. What's her motivation for this? Well, if you go to her Instagram, she does have a link that says, go follow me on TikTok, and shows her TikTok handle. So presumably she's wanting to get followers. And if you go to her TikTok, she's making posts about polyfamily. Some of them are things like, why don't you clear up the rumors? Someone asked me that in the comments. I can't find the comment where that was asked. Not I can't find it. She says she can't find it. But then she goes on, I'm not going to clear something up because I don't know. I only have half the information about it. Exactly. She doesn't have enough information to opine on it. Then she goes on to say, well, why don't people come out and prove why it's not true? That's not usually how it works. If you're making the allegation, you have the burden of proof. If you're the one saying Sean was being investigated for inappropriate relationship with a minor, then you have the burden of showing what you're saying is true. And speaking of that, there is a letter, and it appears to be a letter that would have been written to the mother of Sean's children, where the person is opining that they would be the appropriate parent. On Reddit, people are saying there's spelling errors. It's not a legitimate letter. You know, people make mistakes. It might be legitimate. I don't know if it is or not. I can't verify that. I don't have personal knowledge to verify whether this is a legitimate letter. But what can I look at? Well, I can look at the date of the letter. And the letter is dated from 2016. And what else can I corroborate? Well, I know from court records that Sean was divorced from his wife in 2016. This would have been around the time that Teo was 18 or 19 years old. So that starts to corroborate the age where they met each other, which can also be backed up from what we've been told on the show. We know that there's a letter saying that she should have custody because of allegations that are pending against Sean from another agency. So they haven't been able to look into those allegations. But then they're saying you should be the guardian. Now, why would that information matter in 2016? Well, there would have been a custody issue going on in the divorce. And sometimes allegations are thrown around because a parent is afraid of losing custody of their child, and it's not the right thing to do. You shouldn't commit perjury. You should be honest with the court. But sometimes people make allegations. They coach allegations. And when we pull the criminal records, again, we don't have any proof that Sean was ever investigated for any sexual inappropriateness. He's not on a sex offender registry. He doesn't have any charges brought against him. And if he's being investigated, by who? somebody who presumably would have charges. So maybe this was written by DSS, but they say in the letter, we don't know about the details of this investigation. It's not with our agency. And based on what you're saying the investigation's about, you would be the best parent. This might have been related to the custody issue in his divorce, especially since we find out that he doesn't have a relationship with his children. It might be because of allegations like that. Sometimes people can't afford to be represented in family court. So they might not fight certain allegations because they don't have the money for it. I don't know if that's true or not. I just know that when I look at verifiable sources, criminal records, looking for newspaper articles where you're going to have journalists that are giving information through ethical reporting, I'm not finding any sources that are reliable. And I'm not seeing any firsthand knowledge of these things either. On John's background check, we talked about how he had the one charge, to plea to minor in possession of liquor when he was 20 years old, paid a $75 fine. Another thing that was interesting, though, is Sean does not own any real estate, and neither does Taya. Alicia and Tyler own the house that they live in together. Sean and Taya are not on that deed. They bought it in 2021. Also, Alicia has a house that's just in her name. She has a property. It's about 4.5 acres. It was purchased in 2023, and she's the only person on that deed. She owns it by herself. Now, as far as Taya, she doesn't have any criminal or traffic records. She doesn't have any real estate. What she does have, she has a CNA, a certified nurse assistant, and she got it in 2020. So she got that during the pandemic. So while she is staying at home right now, she does have a CNA. She might be making a sacrifice to raise children, to co-parent these children like they've agreed to do. Now, as far as Alicia, she also doesn't have any criminal or traffic records. We talked about the property that she owns. She does work for the city government. She's a resource development coordinator, and she's worked in coordinator positions for a long time. Now, she does have a bachelor's degree in marketing from Oregon State. So she's a Beaver. I'm a Gamecock. USC, go Cox. Beavers in the Cox. But she does have a BA in marketing from Oregon State. And then she has an international business. It was like a 1-year program from a place called RS University. So I don't know if that was a certification, but she does list that. And that's on her LinkedIn profile. Like I said, I was able to find social media for everybody except for Sean's ex. All right. And then Tyler, our bad boy Tyler. So he's got the longest record. It's not super long, but when he was 19 years old, he was charged with delivering marijuana for consideration. So consideration is when you give something to somebody and they give something to you back in exchange for it. This was in 2006. This was before marijuana was legalized, but that was a charge. It was actually dismissed. He was not convicted of it. He did not plead to it. So like I was saying with Sean, if he was charged with something, even if he wasn't convicted of it, we would see that. So Tyler had a delivering marijuana for consideration dismissed. And then he had a speeding ticket in 2017. He might have just gotten off track there. As far as work, the background check says that he works for a place called Cook Farms since 2017. And that looks like a sustainable farming operation. I did find some reports, though, some news reports about their occupations. And again, with journalism, they're finding sources to back it up. So an article would be a little more credible than Reddit, where you don't know who's saying it. There is an In Touch article, and it talks about the occupations of the 4 adults. I'm over here looking at this In Touch article, and apparently the sextuplets from John and Kate plus 8 are 21, and Kate posted a picture of 4 of the kids. Can we guess who's missing? Colin? Hannah? All right, let's see. According to the In Touch article on Polyfamily, it does confirm that Alicia is an economic development catalyst for the city of Lebanon, just as the background report states. Tyler, it says, is an electrician at On Electric Group, and that he's been there since 2012. So I don't know where that came from. The background report said he was working for a sustainable farm since 2017, and it was the same Tyler Rogers owning property on the background report with Alicia. Maybe he has a second job at a farm. That could be possible. But this source in touch found that he was an electrician. Now, Sean, as of 2022, was working at a local high school. And we do know from the show that Sean has a job because he had a coworker. And in Taya, it says that she's a stay-at-home mom. So it doesn't mention that she has a CNA, but she does. But we can rely a little bit more on articles because of ethical journalism. I keep seeing on social media people criticizing Sean about the whole Raina and Tyler situation. Now, I watched this show so many times before doing that episode. So many times. In fact, when I went to rewatch it to take notes on what I had remembered happening, I clicked on the bar and it took me right to that scene. So that's how much I had studied this before making the episode last week. And this is exactly how I remembered it. So Tyler comes in. Raina is sitting down. She's eating some Fritos. Tyler is asking her how school was. She's giving really short answers. Good. Has anything happened today? Not really. Nothing? How was recess? Recess, I played tag in a game called Horses. And Sean sees what's going on here. Tyler is talkative. He's having a conversation, and that's absolutely fine. But Sean's been at home with Raina all day. So he's been trying to keep her on track. And it's not the first time today that she's found a way to not go to her room, that she's skirted her punishment. So Sean says, Raina, remember you're grounded today, so you need to make sure you're eating and get back downstairs, okay? He's just reminding her, make sure you're eating your snack. Let's not get sidetracked on a conversation. You're in trouble. And Tyler gets upset that he was interrupted by Sean, but he doesn't tell them to stop talking to each other. He just reminds her to stay on track and eat. Let's not get distracted. Let's go downstairs. And then we see Tyler and Sean talking, and this is an edited scene. You can tell because if you're looking at the clips, sometimes Sean's arm is up on the back of the couch. Sometimes it's down, and then we go back to it being up, and then we go from a side view to a front view. Now, one thing that producers will do is they'll have you restate something to redo a scene. Okay, give me that again. Just like you did last time, but we're just going to do it from a different angle or try saying it this way. That could be what's happening because we do see camera angles that are different. But even if not, you can tell that this has been clipped together in a way that it didn't naturally happen. You're not just seeing a scene of them sitting there and talking and it's stagnant and nothing changes from the scene. You're seeing a clip of Tyler, and then you're going to a clip of Sean, and maybe his arm is up in that clip. Then you're going back to a clip of Tyler, and maybe Tyler's looking more agitated. And then you're going back to a clip of Sean, and Sean's arm is down. Then you're going back to a clip of Tyler. You get the point. They're taking the conversation out of order. They're putting it in a way that's more exciting. But the thing is, when they're saying something, you don't know what they're responding to. You don't know what the order of this was. You don't know sometimes if they actually said that sentence. If you're ever looking at an ITM and the producer is asking questions or getting information, and the person, you see him start talking about something, and then they cut away to B-roll, and then they come back. During those moments, those can be Franken edits. That can be where they're splicing different sentences together. And sometimes you can hear it. If you listen really close, you can hear a change in voice, change in tone. Maybe they're talking higher and it drops down a little bit. And I think with AI, those transitions are getting better, but you can still tell. So during that scene, I was paying attention to that. With this in mind that it's not in order, what are they saying? We see Sean in ITMs, and he tells us that they all came to the decision that lying is an automatic grounding, and it's an agreement that they all made together. Also, when we're seeing them sitting at the table, we see Sean tell Raina that she's grounded today. So this doesn't appear to be like a 3-month punishment. It's today. She went to school. She's grounded when she gets home because she lied about something. And the reason she's grounded is because all the adults have agreed on it. they agreed that if the kids lied and it was a mutual decision, that it would be an automatic grounding. So this is a co-parenting thing that they've done. They've come together, they've decided on rules. And Sean, again, I don't see him saying that Tyler cannot talk to the daughter. He even explains here down in the basement that he's trying to keep her on track, that Tyler and Raina have a tendency to just kind of start talking and not stop talking. So Tyler says, when am I supposed to see her? And then tells them that he didn't like how Sean cut him off while they were having a conversation. And then Sean says, well, I get that. And that's one of the consequences she has for lying. That's something we all decided. And she has to stay on task. You and her don't necessarily have a good track record of staying on task. So I thought I should remind her before she went off task. And Tyler was like, but we weren't off task this time. I just got home. And then Sean explains, well, I've been taking care of her all day at home, and it's not the first time. She's been off task repeatedly today. This is like the third time I've had to remind her. So Sean, he's been dealing with raising kids all day. And then Tyler comes home and he wants to talk to his daughter, understandably. Like Sean says, we all want to spend time with her, but if we don't reinforce our rules, then she's going to learn there's no consequences. So he's not isolating Tyler from her. He didn't say, don't talk to your dad. You can't talk to her. He said, just remember that you're eating your snack and going back to your room for today because you're in trouble for lying. Something that we all decided. I also see people criticizing that two non-biological parents are helping raise this family. And I have to wonder if that is a bias against a poly family. Liz and I actually talked about this when we did the first episode. She said, as a divorced mom, there might be non-biological people helping parent my children. And I think about one of my friends who's a widow. She has non-biological people that help parent her daughter, me included. She's a nurse. Sometimes she has to work late shifts and her daughter comes over to my house and she's my bonus kid and I love her to pieces. But I will tell her when she shouldn't be doing something. Sometimes her mom will be like, well, Lauren said that. So, you got to listen to her. And the same thing, if my friend told my son to knock something out, I'd be like, oh, thank you. So, we don't judge those situations. And it's not that I'm a replacement for my friend's husband or that my husband is a replacement for the husband. It just takes a village sometimes. Co-parenting can come in all different forms. And whenever you have bonus parents, it's not replacing the parent. It's just a village working together to raise the children. So I think my experience probably has shaped the way that I see Sean and Taya parenting with Tyler and Alicia. And I don't think there's anything weird about non-biological parents. So that's it for today. I just wanted to get on here, address some of the allegations, and remind everybody when you're watching these shows, watch the edit. When Sean says that's one of the consequences for Raina being grounded, it may not have been him reacting to Tyler saying, when do I get to see her? Just remember, when you're watching the shows, look at the edit, listen to the edit, pay attention to the decisions that editing is making. They're intentional. And also, when you're looking online, look at the sources. Be a responsible journalist. Ask, what motivation would this person have to post something? See if you can find credible evidence like court records that are verifiable to back things up, or people with firsthand knowledge of the situation. Just be a responsible consumer when we're looking at our favorite trashy shows. All right, Channel Surfers, thanks for listening. Share this if you find it interesting or you think anybody could benefit from thinking a little bit more deeply and responsibly about social media and what we're consuming. And join us in our Facebook group if you have any questions or thoughts or comments. I would love to hear it. Consume responsibly, and we'll see you soon for Polyfamily. Bye.